And even when you're dealing with people, there's the facade of the person, and then there's the substance of the person, their true character, what they're really like when they are not on, so to speak, when they're not trying to manipulate you. What are they really like? What are their values? What are their standards for behavior? What is their level of integrity? How much do they care about the truth? How much do they really embody love? These are the substance. And the facade is like what they look like, the makeup they put on, maybe the funny stories they tell, the kind of suit they wear. This is the facade. That's not the important stuff. You have to be able to see through that stuff, like, how well they dress. That's a facade. Like, you can have a horrible person dress really nice. So you can't judge a person by how they dress. And likewise, you can have a horrible person tell you interesting, charming stories and crack jokes with you and build a sort of a friendly rapport with you. A horrible person, a psychopath, can do that. But the substance there is that it's a psychopath with this pleasant facade. So beware of these facades. And don't make excuses for all these red flags. If you are going into a situation, whether it's a relationship, a partnership, a business deal, a sale, whatever, and you notice let's say three or more of these red flags, that should automatically put you into the default of no. And then put the burden on that person or that party to then change your mind. Maybe these red flags are not a deal breaker. Maybe you're just, a little bit overly cautious. But so what? It's better to be overly cautious than to get screwed in this case. So the default after a few red flags is no, unless that person is willing to do some work and address the red flags. You can bring up the red flags to them, see how they react to them. Maybe they can address, maybe they have some legitimate justifications or excuses, or maybe there's some miscommunication. That's fine. Then you can still go forward. But by default, unless they address it, it's a no. See? Like, for example, you go into a situation and the salesperson says, okay, you have to decide to buy this house in the next week. That's a red flag. That would be a red flag for me. And then maybe I would say, well, I'm interested in this house, but I don't like being pressured. So why do I have to do it in the next week? That seems contrived and artificial. Do you have a good reason for why it has to be next week? Or are you just saying that because you want me to buy the house, right? See, and if they can address that and they can say, well, yeah, honestly, we have somebody who's already looking at the house. So if they buy it before you, then you're going to lose this house. And if they're not lying to you, that can be legitimate. That can be a legitimate thing. Maybe, in a hot housing market, you don't have a lot of time to buy a house sometimes. But also a lot of times they can just lie to you about that. So you have to kind of suss it out and see, is the time sensitivity truly legitimate or is just some bullshit marketing tactic, sales tactic? So that's what I mean by these red flags. In general, salespeople, con artists, and scammers, they prey on your emotional vulnerabilities and your ego's desires, needs, weaknesses, and insecurities. Do you see how this works? Because the human mind is not primarily run by logic and reason. It's mostly run by emotions. Most purchase decisions are made on emotions, not on cold logic and facts and science. And of course, all marketers, advertisers, salespeople, and con artists understand this. Either explicitly or just intuitively, they understand this. But a lot of marketers are actually taught this explicitly these days. A lot of marketing courses will teach you that, to make a sale, you have to prey on the fears and insecurities of your customers. Like literally, that's what they teach you. They're shameless about it. So con artists tend to prey on the inexperienced. Con artists prey on the desperate. Con artists prey on the greedy and the lazy. Con artists prey on the impatient. And con artists play on your fear. These 5 things are huge. Lack of experience, desperation, greed and laziness, impatience and fear. And if you have all of these combined together, you're the perfect mark. But even just one of these will be enough to scam you. So the root solution here, to make yourself immune from being scammed, is to take care of that. Gain massive experience. Be well educated. Stop being desperate and needy in the situation that you go into. Because if you're going to be desperate, that's the surest way to get screwed over. Because then you don't have a choice. See, if you get stabbed in the gut, you're in a desperate situation. You need an emergency room right fucking now. You don't have time to shop around for emergency rooms. So you're just going to get taken to the nearest emergency room. And of course, they're going to screw you over on the billing because you're desperate. See, what you should have done is you should have researched these emergency rooms before you got stabbed, not afterwards. Then you wouldn't have been desperate. But that requires that you look forward. You have to have a vision, a long time horizon when you're planning out your life. If you're just sort of like reacting all the time in your life, you're constantly desperate. You're putting yourself in desperate situations. Like you don't have enough money, so you got to go get a payday loan, which is going to screw you over. Or you're desperate for sex, so you go and you make some deal with a prostitute, and then she screws you over. You see how this works? Or you're desperate for love and a boyfriend, and so you fall in love with the first guy you sleep with, and then he screws you over. See how that works? And then if you're greedy and you're lazy, of course, that makes you a really easy mark. If you're impatient, too. And if you're afraid. When you're in the grip of fear, it's very easy to sell to you. And that's what most marketers and advertisers do, is they prey on your fear. Going through extreme life changes makes you the most vulnerable to scams and cons. And a lot of times, for example, cults and religions, they have an entire marketing strategy designed around this. They specifically look for people who are vulnerable, who are going through an extreme life change. For example, they will look for alcoholics. They will look for drug addicts. They will look for people who just got divorced. They will look for somebody who just lost someone in their family. Somebody died. A parent or a child of theirs died. Now they're very vulnerable. Now you can sell them on any kind of new age cult, any kind of miracle cure or a course, or like, let's say somebody just got diagnosed with a terminal disease, cancer or something like that. This person is so desperate that they will pay money for any kind of miracle cure at that point. So if you're in a vulnerable place in your life, if you're going through an extreme life transition, through a divorce, through a death in the family, through a loss of your job, through a career change, through the loss of your business, bankruptcy, right? There are entire professions and industries designed to prey on people like you going through that specific situation. There are entire industries designed to prey on people who just got a cancer diagnosis. There are entire industries looking to exploit people who just got divorced or are going through a divorce. There are entire industries that are looking to brainwash people who are addicted to substances because they're very vulnerable. The best way to avoid getting scammed is to have a strong character, low ego, develop yourself, educate yourself, be non-needy, be detached from outcome, be fearless, be hardworking, have intellectual integrity, be experienced, be patient, be long-term oriented, and be principled. Have principles that you live by. And in general, don't be so survival oriented. Be oriented towards something higher than just survival or just pure utility. In other words, become more conscious and more integrous. This is the ultimate solution to getting scammed and exploited by others.